My name is Martin Hale, and I'm 59 years old. I live alone in a small, weathered house just outside Toledo, Ohio, a place my parents left me after they passed. Life here has always been quiet, too quiet maybe. But 3 months ago, something started happening that changed everything. Every night, precisely at 9:15, my son Ethan would call. Always the same question, in the same flat voice. "Dad, are you alone right now?" For weeks I thought nothing of it. Maybe he was checking on me out of concern, though it felt mechanical. But last night I decided to lie to him for the first time. And that small lie, as strange as it sounds, may have saved my life. It had been a normal afternoon. I'd just gotten home from my part-time job at a small auto repair shop. My hands still smelled faintly of oil, and I was rinsing my tools when my phone rang. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, son," I said, drying my hands on an old towel. "Everything all right at work?" His voice was calm, almost cold. "Yeah, fine. Are you alone?" That question again. For 3 months, I'd always said yes, and every time he would hang up, right after. No goodbye, no small talk, just silence. But something in my gut told me not to say yes this time, so I lied. "No, I'm not alone." A friend dropped by for coffee. There was a pause. A long one. Then his tone changed. "Who?" "Amanda," I said quickly, naming the first person that came to mind, my lawyer friend. "She's helping me with some house papers." Another pause. "Papers?" he asked sharply. "What papers?" "Nothing serious," I said. "Just property taxes." Ethan didn't reply for a few seconds. Then he muttered, "We'll talk tomorrow," and hung up. I stared at the screen, a mix of relief and unease washing over me. Something about his tone didn't sit right. I didn't know it yet, but that single lie had disrupted something Ethan didn't want disturbed. That night I couldn't sleep. The house felt different, tenser, as if someone else was there, breathing quietly in the shadows, and when I checked the camera footage the next morning, I realized my son hadn't just been calling to ask if I was alone. He already knew when I was. I didn't tell anyone what happened that night. Maybe I didn't want to believe there was anything wrong. But the next morning, after another restless sleep, I decided to check something. A few weeks earlier, I had installed 2 small security cameras in the house, one facing the front door, another watching over the living room. It wasn't paranoia at first, just precaution. I had been noticing small, strange things lately. Drawers left open, tools missing, papers shuffled around. I thought maybe it was my memory slipping, or that I was just tired from work. But deep down, I already feared something worse. I opened the camera app on my phone and scrolled to the previous night's recording. At 2:37 a.m., the feed showed the front door slowly creaking open. My breath caught in my chest. Ethan walked in. He moved like he'd done it before, quietly, confidently. He was holding a flashlight, moving it slowly over the furniture, as if he knew every inch of the house. He went straight to my desk, pulled out a folder of old property documents, and began photographing them with his phone. Then, the most chilling part, he crept toward my bedroom door, pushed it open, and just stood there. Watching me sleep, he didn't move for almost a full minute. Then, as quietly as he'd come in, he left. I stared at the screen in disbelief. My son, my own son, had broken into my house in the middle of the night. Why, what was he looking for? My hands were shaking as I called the only person I could trust, Amanda Voss, an old friend and attorney who had helped me settle my parents' estate years ago. She met me later that afternoon at a small diner far from my neighborhood. After I showed her the footage, her expression turned grave. "Martin," she said softly, "this isn't just trespassing. It's premeditated. He's after something. But what? I have nothing worth taking. Just the house and a modest savings account." "Could he be in debt?" she asked, "or involved with someone dangerous?" I didn't know. Ethan had always been quiet, disciplined, the kind of son any father would be proud of. He worked in finance, had a decent apartment, and rarely asked for help, except once. 4 months ago he had borrowed $40,000, claiming it was for a business opportunity. I hadn't questioned him then. But now, that number echoed in my mind like a warning. Amanda leaned forward. "Martin, you need to find out what your son's been doing. Something isn't right." That night, as I locked every door and window, I couldn't shake one thought. If Ethan had a key, then maybe the next time he came in, he wouldn't just be watching me sleep. The next morning, I woke up with a weight in my chest that no amount of coffee could shake off. I kept replaying that footage over and over in my head, Ethan's face half lit by the glow of his flashlight. The way he lingered at my bedroom door like a stranger. I needed answers. Amanda met me at my house around noon. Her professional calm was the only thing keeping me from unraveling. "Martin," she said, "we need to look into his life quietly without tipping him off. Do you have a key to his apartment?" I hesitated. "Yeah, he gave me one years ago, said it was for emergencies." Then today, she said firmly, "We use it." By late afternoon, we stood in front of Ethan's apartment building, a modern complex on the west side of town. The hallway smelled of disinfectant and loneliness. My stomach twisted as I slid the key into the lock. The door opened without resistance. The apartment was spotless. Too spotless. Everything arranged with mechanical precision, like a hotel room that no one actually lived in. But there was something off about the air. Heavy, tense, as if the walls had been holding secrets. Amanda gestured to a desk by the window. "Let's start there." On it lay a scatter of papers, bills, and unopened letters. She picked up a few and frowned. "These are all overdue. Credit card debts, loans. He owes hundreds of thousands." I felt my throat tighten. My son? The same man who lectured me about budgeting and responsibility? Then she froze, staring at a document half tucked under a ledger. "Martin," she whispered. "Look at this." It was a power of attorney form granting Ethan full control of my assets, signed with what appeared to be my signature. My knees went weak. "I never signed this," I stammered. "It's a forgery," Amanda said, examining the paper closely. "And a bad one? But it's enough to cause damage if filed the right way." I could barely breathe. My own son had forged my name. Why? Amanda continued searching the drawers, and then she found something that made my blood run cold. A small, clear vial filled with an unmarked liquid. Next to it, a printed note. Dosage for elderly subjects. Causes drowsiness, reduced respiration. "What is this?" I whispered. Her eyes met mine. "Sedatives. Strong ones. Martin, I think your son was planning something far worse than fraud." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the table. A text from my neighbor. "Mrs. Harper, Martin, I went into your house because I smelled gas. Something's wrong with your stove. Please come quickly." I felt the color drain from my face. Amanda read the message and grabbed her bag. "We have to go, now!" As we rushed down the stairs, a single thought pounded in my head. What if Ethan hadn't just been planning to steal from me, but to make sure I never woke up again? Amanda drove like her life depended on it, maybe because it did. The autumn sun was fading fast, casting long, uneasy shadows over the road as we sped back toward my house. I could feel my pulse in my ears. Every red light felt like a countdown. When we finally turned into my street, Mrs. Harper, my elderly neighbor, was waiting outside my gate, wringing her hands. She'd lived next door since I was a kid. Her face was pale with worry. "Oh, Martin, thank goodness you're here," she said. "I came by to drop off some soup, and I smelled something strange, like gas, but different. I used the spare key you gave me years ago to check." Amanda and I exchanged a grim look. "Show us," she said. We entered the house cautiously. Everything looked normal, too normal. The kitchen lights buzzed softly. Then Mrs. Harper pointed to the back of the stove. There, I saw something connected that shouldn't be there. I bent down, heart hammering. There it was, but a small digital timer attached to the gas line. Thin wires led into a valve that clearly wasn't part of the original setup. The tiny screen blinked a number, 3 AM. Amanda crouched beside me, her voice tense. "This isn't just tampering, Martin. It's a timed release system. Someone set it to open the gas in the middle of the night." My stomach dropped. While I was sleeping, the realization hit like a wave. Ethan hadn't just been sneaking in for documents. He was setting up a trap, one that would have made my death look like an accident. Mrs. Harper covered her mouth in horror. "You need to call the police." Amanda grabbed my arm. "Wait, we'll call them, but we need solid evidence first. If we go too early, he'll deny everything, maybe even claim you're paranoid. We need something undeniable." Her logic made sense, even though every instinct in me screamed to call for help immediately. "Then what do we do?" The vial, Amanda said. If we can confirm what's in it, we'll have proof of intent. Mrs. Harper suddenly spoke up. My nephew Theo works at the state forensic lab. If it's urgent, he might test it tonight, unofficially. That was the first sliver of hope I'd had all day. We carefully disconnected the timer and sealed it in a plastic bag. Amanda photographed everything, the wires, the gas valve, the digital timer. Every image was a piece of evidence. When we finally stepped outside, the night air felt heavier. My house, the place I'd always thought of as safe, was now a crime scene designed by my own son. Amanda looked at me with quiet determination. We go to the lab, tonight. I nodded, gripping the evidence bag so tightly my fingers ached. But as we got into the car, my phone buzzed again, and when I saw the name flashing on the screen, my blood ran cold. It was Ethan. Amanda had barely turned the ignition when my phone lit up. The name on the screen froze me in place. Ethan. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The engine hummed softly. Amanda's eyes met mine. Answer it, she whispered. Stay calm. Don't mention the stove. I took a deep breath and pressed the green button. Hey, son, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Dad, Ethan replied. His tone was strangely even, too even. Where are you? At Amanda's office, I lied, glancing at her. We're sorting out some legal paperwork. There was a pause. I stopped by your house, he said slowly. You weren't there. My mouth went dry. He'd already been to my house. The thought made my skin crawl. Yeah, I said, trying to sound casual. Amanda called last minute. I figured I'd better handle things before they pile up. Another pause. Long enough to feel deliberate. Then, I see. We'll talk tonight. He hung up before I could reply. For several seconds, the car was silent except for the sound of my heartbeat. Amanda finally exhaled. He's getting suspicious. That lie last night, it threw him off balance. Do you think he went there to finish it? She cut in. Yes, but the timer wasn't set to fail. It was scheduled, meaning he wanted it to look accidental. The fact that you weren't home disrupted everything. The thought chilled me to my core. Ethan hadn't panicked. He was recalculating. Amanda stepped harder on the gas. Let's get to Theo. We need confirmation before he realizes we've seen the setup. The city blurred past as we drove. My mind spun in chaos. My son, the same boy I'd taught to ride a bike, who once fell asleep on my shoulder during storms, was now setting traps in my home. At the state lab, Theo Alvarez, Mrs. Harper's nephew, met us at a back entrance. A tall man in his 30s with tired eyes, he led us into a sterile room that smelled faintly of disinfectant. You said it's urgent? He asked. Amanda handed over the vial. We think it contains a sedative. Possibly used with intent to harm. Theo didn't ask questions. He just nodded and went to work, drawing a small sample into a pipette. Give me 30 minutes, he said, disappearing into the lab. I sat down heavily. My hands trembled. Amanda paced the room, whispering into her phone, updating someone quietly, maybe one of her police contacts. I stared at the clock. 6:10 p.m. In 3 hours, Ethan would call again, right on schedule. And I knew this time the question, "Are you alone?" wouldn't just be curiosity. It would be the beginning of whatever plan he had left. But before the clock even hit 7, Theo returned, and the look on his face told me the truth was far darker than I was prepared for. Theo returned, holding the small vial between two gloved fingers, his expression grim. Even before he spoke, I knew the news wouldn't be good. He set it gently on the counter beside us. "Mr. Hale," he began, his voice low but steady, "this isn't a common sedative. It's a chemical mix, a compound derived from barbiturates and synthetic fentanyl. In small doses, it induces confusion, dizziness, and sleep. In larger doses," he hesitated, "it causes respiratory failure and cardiac arrest within minutes." I stared at the vial, my throat tightening. "So it could kill someone?" "Yes," Theo said flatly, "and cleanly. If administered with alcohol or sleeping medication, it could easily be mistaken for a natural cause of death, or even carbon monoxide poisoning if gas was involved." Amanda exchanged a look with me. "He was building a perfect accident," she murmured. Theo nodded. "He knows what he's doing. Whoever prepared this has medical or pharmaceutical knowledge, or access to someone who does." I swallowed hard. "My son worked at an insurance firm, not a lab." "Then he learned from someone," Theo replied. Because this isn't beginner stuff. The world around me blurred for a moment. My legs went weak, and I gripped the counter for balance. He was planning to kill me, I whispered. Not rob me, not threaten me. Kill me. Amanda placed a hand on my shoulder. Martin, we're not jumping to conclusions yet. But everything points to a larger motive. Financial, most likely. Money? I scoffed. He already owes thousands. I've given him all I can. Exactly, she said quietly. That's why he'd need more. We need to find out if he took out any insurance policies in your name. People desperate for money do things they never would otherwise. Theo removed his gloves and sighed. I'll file an official report first thing tomorrow. For now, I'll keep a sample safe at the lab. But you both need to be careful. If he suspects you know, he might act before we can stop him. Amanda nodded, grabbing her bag. We'll handle it. Thank you, Theo. As we walked back to the car, the night air felt colder than before. The lights of the city shimmered faintly against the windshield as we drove home in silence. Every word Theo had said echoed in my mind. Synthetic fentanyl. Fatal dose, perfect accident. When we reached my house, the clock on the dashboard read 8:44 p.m. 1 hour until Ethan's nightly call. Amanda glanced at me. Are you ready for this? I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was ready for anything anymore. At exactly 9:15, my phone began to ring, and as I reached for it, Amanda whispered, "This is it, Martin. Whatever happens next, don't let him know we know." The house felt unnaturally quiet. Even the ticking of the wall clock seemed louder than usual. Amanda and I sat at the small kitchen table. The disconnected gas timer and photos of the vial spread before us like silent witnesses. 58 p.m. I poured myself a cup of coffee just to keep my hands busy, but I couldn't bring myself to drink it. My eyes kept flicking to the phone lying on the table. Amanda's voice broke the silence. Remember, keep your answers short. Calm. Don't say anything that could hint you're with me. I nodded numbly. 15, right on time. The phone buzzed. Ethan's name flashed across the screen like a warning light. I took a deep breath and answered. Hey, son. Dad. His tone was sharp but controlled, almost rehearsed. How are you feeling? I'm fine, I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. Just tired. It's been a long day, a pause. Then, as always, are you alone right now? Amanda mouthed no from across the table. No, I said aloud. Amanda's still here. We've been sorting through some paperwork. Another long silence. I could almost hear his breathing on the other end. Paperwork? For what? Just the house, I replied casually. Nothing serious. Is she staying over? His tone tightened. It's late. Maybe, I said. We're almost done, but I don't want her driving home at this hour. This time the silence stretched so long that I thought he'd hung up. Then, in a voice colder than before, he said, I need to talk to you alone. It's important. I can come over now. Amanda shook her head violently, whispering, Say no. Not tonight, Ethan. It's late. Tomorrow morning, maybe over breakfast. It can't wait, he snapped. Just 5 minutes. Something in his voice, a restrained desperation, sent a chill down my spine. No, son. We'll talk in the morning, I said, as evenly as I could. There was a click, the sound of him hanging up without another word. Amanda leaned forward. He's not going to wait until morning. Before I could reply, headlights swept across the window. A car slowed to a stop right outside my gate. We both froze. I moved to the window and peeked through the curtain. It was Ethan's car. Amanda's hand trembled as she reached for her phone. I'm calling Marcus, my contact in the police department. He'll send someone fast. Outside, the car engine shut off. A door opened. Then footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. As the back door handle began to turn, Amanda whispered, He's inside the yard. The metallic rattle of the back door handle froze us both. Amanda's hand tightened around her phone as she whispered into it, Marcus, it's happening now. Send a unit to 214 Eastbrook Lane. Fast. Her voice was calm but strained. I could hear the dispatcher's voice faintly on the other end, confirming the call. Then came the sound. The unmistakable click of a key turning in the lock. My heart stopped. He has a key, I mouthed to Amanda. The door creaked open slowly. Dad? Ethan's voice floated in from the dark hallway, calm, too calm. You there? I motioned for Amanda to stay hidden behind the kitchen doorway. My body felt like it was moving through water as I stepped forward. "I'm here." "Son," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, illuminated by the dim yellow light above the stove. He looked normal, too normal. Jeans, jacket, hair neatly combed. But there was something in his eyes, something hollow, calculating. "You scared me," I said. "Didn't expect you this late. I told you it couldn't wait." His gaze darted around the kitchen, the counters, the sink, the stove. When his eyes fell on the disconnected valve, his expression changed. "What happened here?" I swallowed hard. "The repairman came by, said there was a small leak." His jaw tightened. "Really?" He stepped closer, scanning the area behind the stove. Then, without a word, he slung his backpack onto the table. From it, he pulled out a small vial, identical to the one Theo had tested earlier. "What's that?" I asked, though my voice came out as barely a whisper. "You should take 2 before bed." He placed the vial on the table between us. His hand lingered on it. "I already took my medication," I said. "These are better," he insisted. "Safer. I had them specially made." He opened the cap and held out 2 white pills toward me. "Go on, Dad. Take them." My pulse pounded in my throat. Behind him, I saw movement. Amanda creeping quietly toward the living room, her phone still in hand. "I'll wait until tomorrow," I said, "just to make sure they don't interfere with my regular meds." Ethan's expression darkened. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Why are you lying to me?" Before I could answer, Amanda's voice rang out. Firm and clear. "Martin, the police just arrived." Ethan spun around. Startled, 2 uniformed officers stepped into the kitchen doorway, guns lowered, but ready. Behind them was Captain Marcus Reed in plain clothes. "Ethan Hale," the captain said evenly. "We need to ask you a few questions." Ethan froze. His knuckles whitened around the vial. For a moment, I thought he'd surrender quietly, until I saw the look in his eyes shift from confusion to something much darker. Ethan didn't move. The small vial in his hand caught the dim kitchen light, glinting faintly at a fragile object holding deadly intent. The 2 officers stood firm, hands near their holsters but not raised, waiting for a command. Captain Marcus took a cautious step forward. "Ethan, we just want to talk," he said calmly. "Put the vial down." Ethan's eyes flicked between Marcus and me. His voice cracked slightly when he spoke. "You think I'd hurt my own father?" Amanda stood beside the counter, her voice steady. "Then prove it." "Put it down, Ethan." For a second, I saw the boy I used to know. The nervous smile he'd get on the first day of school, the way he'd clutch my hand before crossing the street. But that version of him was gone, buried under years of secrets and resentment. He looked at me, his tone shifting. "Dad, you don't understand what's going on. They're lying to you." "Who's lying?" I asked gently. "All of them." He snapped, gesturing wildly toward Amanda and the officers. "She's after the house." "You think she's helping you?" "She's taking everything from us." Amanda stayed composed, though I could see her pulse throbbing at her neck. "Ethan, no one's taking anything. We just need to make sure you're okay." "I am okay," he shouted. His voice cracked, a mix of rage and desperation. "You don't get it, Dad. Everything I've done, the documents, the calls, it was to protect you." Marcus stepped forward slowly. "Protect him from what?" Ethan's breathing grew shallow. "From them. The people who took Mom's insurance money. The ones who want the house. You don't see it, but they're watching." I felt my stomach turn. Mom's insurance money. She'd passed away 10 years ago. Ethan had barely been 20 then. Could he have been holding on to that grief all this time, letting it twist into paranoia? "Son," I said softly, "no one's watching us. You're safe now. Just don't patronize me," he screamed, slamming the vial onto the table. It rolled, clinking against the wood, but miraculously didn't break. One of the officers flinched, but Marcus raised a hand, keeping them back. Ethan's voice lowered to a trembling whisper. "You lied to me, Dad. You said you were alone. You said you trusted me." My throat tightened. "I do trust you, Ethan, but you broke into my house. You scared me. I just need to understand why." He looked at me for a long moment, eyes full of confusion, pain, and something else, fear. Then his body sagged, the anger drained from his face, replaced by exhaustion. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to see what they were doing. But now it's too late." Marcus signaled the officers to move. They stepped forward carefully, hands out, and just as one officer reached for Ethan's arm, A deafening crash erupted from the living room, followed by the unmistakable sound of glass shattering and someone running out into the night. The crash came from the living room, sharp and sudden, like a gunshot shattering the silence. Everyone flinched. Marcus spun around, shouting, "He's running!" We bolted toward the sound. The curtains fluttered wildly by the open window, glass scattered across the floor. Ethan was gone. The two officers sprinted through the backyard, flashlights slicing through the darkness. I stumbled after them, my pulse pounding so hard I could barely hear. The night air was cold, heavy with the smell of wet earth. I caught a glimpse of movement near the fence, a dark figure climbing over, then disappearing into the woods behind the house. "Stop!" Marcus yelled, drawing his flashlight. "Ethan, stop right now!" But Ethan didn't stop. His silhouette vanished into the trees, swallowed by the dark. Marcus turned to me. "Stay here with Amanda. We'll track him down." Within seconds, the officers were gone, their voices echoing faintly through the woods. The red and blue glow of police lights flickered against the trees as backup units arrived. Amanda guided me back inside. My hands were trembling. "He's not well, Martin," she said softly. "That wasn't rational behavior. It's paranoia mixed with delusion." "I know," I murmured, my eyes fixed on the broken glass. "But I keep thinking, what if he truly believes what he's saying? What if he thinks he's saving me?" Amanda didn't respond. Instead, she bent down to pick up something from the floor. A small leather notebook, half buried under the broken frame of the window. "This must have fallen from his bag," she said, carefully opening it. The pages were filled with handwriting, frantic, uneven, barely legible. Drawings of eyes, maps of the neighborhood, strings of names connected by arrows. Some pages had phrases scrawled over and over. "They're watching him. Protect father at all costs. She's lying. She's taking the house." Amanda's face hardened. "This isn't just obsession. It's delusion." I turned another page, a list of medications with crossed-out names. At the bottom, circled in red ink, was one single line. "Get more from Dr. Miles before they cut me off." "Dr. Miles?" I whispered. "That's his psychiatrist." Amanda's eyes widened. "He's been off his meds." The weight of it all hit me like a hammer. The lies, the anger, the fear. It all came from a broken mind, spiraling out of control. The front door opened suddenly. Marcus stepped in, out of breath. "He's gone," he said grimly. We searched the woods. No sign of him. "Then he's still out there," I said quietly. Marcus nodded. "And he's unstable. We'll issue a bulletin, but until we find him, you're not staying here alone." Amanda's hand touched my arm. "You're coming with me tonight," I nodded. Though my thoughts were far away, back in those dark woods, where my son was running from ghosts only he could see, and yet, as we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan wasn't just running away. He was preparing to come back. 3 days passed, 3 long, sleepless nights filled with police updates, unanswered questions, and the unshakable dread that Ethan was still out there, watching. I stayed at Amanda's house on the edge of town. She lived alone in a small, ivy-covered cottage that felt safe, or at least safer than mine. Yet every creak of the floor, every rustle of wind outside, made my heart race. Captain Marcus called every morning. "No sightings yet," he'd say. "We've got his car flagged and patrols watching the area." But I could hear it in his voice. They were running out of leads. By the 3rd night, a storm rolled in. Heavy rain pounded against the windows as thunder rolled low in the distance. Amanda sat on the couch with her laptop, reviewing the case notes and police statements. I stood by the window, staring into the sheets of rain. Then, through the blurred glass, I saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of the driveway. "Amanda," I whispered. "Someone's outside." She looked up sharply, then joined me at the window. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, shoulders slumped, rain cascading down its silhouette. Then the lightning flashed, and for a single, blinding second I saw his face. "Ethan." "Oh my God," Amanda breathed. "It's him." I rushed to the door, but she grabbed my arm. "Wait, let the police handle it. He's soaked." I protested. "He looks broken." "Martin, please." But I'd already opened the door. The cold rain hit me instantly, soaking through my shirt as I stepped out onto the porch. Ethan was standing halfway down the driveway, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes hollow and red. "Ethan," I called softly. "Come inside, son. You'll get sick." He didn't move at first. Then slowly he took a few steps forward. His lips trembled as he spoke. "They said you'd hate me," he whispered. "They said you'd call the police." "No one hates you," I said. "You're my son," he shook his head. "You don't understand, Dad. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was trying to save you from her." I followed his gaze to Amanda standing behind me in the doorway. He pointed at her, eyes wide and frantic. "She's lying. She's using you." Amanda's voice was calm but urgent. "Martin, please step back." "Ethan," I said, reaching out a hand, "no one's against you. Just come inside. We'll fix this. Together." His shoulders trembled. "It's too late," he whispered. "They're already here." And as lightning split the sky, I realized he wasn't looking at me or Amanda anymore. He was staring past us, into the shadows behind the house. Where someone else was moving. For a moment, everything stopped. The rain, the thunder, even my breath. Ethan's eyes were locked on something behind us, and the raw fear in them wasn't the kind born of delusion. It was real. Amanda turned first. "There's no one—" Before she could finish, a faint sound came from the backyard, the crunch of footsteps on wet gravel, slow, deliberate. Amanda's face went pale. "Martin," she whispered, "someone's back there." I turned toward Ethan. He stood trembling, rain pouring off his clothes. "I told you," he said, voice breaking. "They followed me. They're watching the house." "You didn't believe me." For the first time, I wasn't sure what to believe. Amanda reached for her phone. "I'm calling Marcus. Stay inside." But Ethan stepped forward quickly, grabbing my sleeve. "Don't call anyone," he hissed. "They'll hear it." "They always hear it." His grip was cold, desperate. "Ethan, you're not making sense." A sudden thud against the back door cut me off. Loud. Heavy. Someone, or something, was trying to get in. Amanda's voice rose. "Martin, lock the front." I rushed to the door, bolting it shut, as another crash came from the back of the house. The rain seemed to grow louder, like the storm itself was holding its breath. Ethan's face twisted in panic. "You see? They're here for the files. The ones I took from them." "What files?" I demanded. He didn't answer. His eyes darted wildly toward the hallway. "They can't find them, Dad. Promise me you won't let them find them." Amanda reappeared, phone to her ear. "Marcus is on his way. 2 units en route. Just stay calm." Another crash, glass breaking this time. I could hear boots crunching on broken shards. Someone had forced a window open. Amanda reached into a drawer, pulling out a flashlight. "Go to the living room. Lights off. Move quietly." We crouched behind the couch as the sound of footsteps echoed through the house. My heart hammered so violently I thought they could hear it. Ethan whispered beside me, "I told you." "They work with her?" "Ethan!" "She's one of them." Before I could respond, a flashlight beam cut through the dark hallway. A shadow moved past the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered. Then another. Amanda's voice trembled. "That's not the police." The front window rattled as wind howled through the cracks. My pulse surged. Then, from the hallway, a low voice called out. Unfamiliar. Male. Steady. "Mr. Hale." "We just want to talk." Amanda grabbed my arm. "Don't answer," she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened. "They found me." And before I could stop him, Ethan bolted up from behind the couch, shouting into the darkness. "You'll never take him." "Ethan, no," I shouted, but it was too late. He was already standing, silhouetted in the flickering light from the storm outside, shouting toward the dark hallway. "You'll never take him." The beam of a flashlight swung toward his voice. "Hands where we can see them." A deep voice commanded. Amanda grabbed my wrist and hissed, "Stay down, Martin!" But Ethan didn't move. He stood rigid, trembling, his soaked clothes clinging to him. "You're not police," he said, his voice cracking. "Real officers don't come through the back door." The light wavered, and for a split second I saw them clearly. 2 men, both in black raincoats, no visible badges. One held a flashlight, the other a handgun angled low but ready. Amanda was right. They weren't police. The man with the gun stepped closer. "Ethan Hale," he said. "We need to recover what you stole from North Ridge." Ethan froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You see? I told you, Dad. It's real." Amanda's eyes widened. "North Ridge? That's a research firm, pharmaceutical." Everything clicked at once. The forged documents, the lab-grade sedatives, the debt. Ethan hadn't been imagining enemies. He had stolen something. Something dangerous. Ethan slowly backed toward the living room. "You're not getting anything," he said. "I destroyed the samples." The man's tone sharpened. "We both know you didn't." Amanda leaned toward me. "We need to stall them until Marcus gets here." I nodded, forcing myself to stand. "Whoever you are," I said, stepping into view, "you need to leave before the police arrive." The man with the gun shifted slightly, aiming lower. "Stay out of this, sir. This is between us and your son." "Then you'll deal with me, too," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. For a tense moment, no one moved. The thunder rumbled overhead, shaking the windows. Ethan's hands were shaking violently now, his breathing shallow and uneven. Amanda whispered, "Martin, don't provoke him." Ethan suddenly yelled, "Dad, get back!" and lunged toward me, knocking me down just as the gun fired. The sound was deafening. A flash of light, a roar, then chaos. Amanda screamed. The men bolted for the door as red and blue lights exploded outside. Sirens, shouting, the heavy slam of car doors. Captain Marcus and his officers stormed in seconds later. "Drop your weapons," he bellowed. The intruders fled through the rain, disappearing into the woods before the officers could grab them. I turned over, coughing, my ears ringing. Amanda knelt beside me, checking for blood. "I'm fine," I gasped. "Ethan, where's Ethan?" She looked toward the kitchen. "He's down." I crawled toward him, heart hammering. He was lying on the tile, motionless, a dark stain spreading across his sleeve. When his eyes fluttered open, the first thing he whispered wasn't about pain. It was, "Dad, did I save you?" Ethan's voice was faint, barely audible over the pounding rain outside. "Dad, did I save you?" I knelt beside him, pressing a towel against his bleeding arm. "You're going to be okay, son. Just stay with me." His face was pale, lips trembling, eyes unfocused. Amanda was already on the phone, shouting to the paramedics outside, "He's conscious, gunshot wound to the upper arm." Captain Marcus appeared at the doorway, drenched, his voice steady but urgent. "Ambulance is 2 minutes out. We got one of the suspects in custody. The other fled into the woods." Ethan's eyes flickered toward Marcus, then back to me. "They were going to take it," he murmured. "The formula. It could kill people if they use it wrong." My heart twisted. "Formula?" He nodded weakly. "They said it was for pain treatment." New version of fentanyl. But it wasn't medicine. It was weaponized. I saw what it did to animals in testing. Heart stops, lungs shut down. I stole the files, the samples. I thought if I hid them, they couldn't hurt anyone. Amanda exchanged a stunned look with Marcus. "Northridge Labs. That explains the compound Theo found in the vial." Marcus cursed under his breath. "We've been investigating them for months. Illegal trials, missing data. If Ethan took evidence, that's why they came for him." Ethan's breathing grew shallow. "They followed me. They knew I came to you. I thought if they got to you first, they'd use you to find the samples." It all fell into place. The paranoia, the fear, the nightly calls. "Are you alone right now?" He hadn't been checking on me out of control or obsession. He'd been making sure I was safe. My chest tightened. "You weren't trying to hurt me," I whispered. "You were trying to protect me?" He gave a weak smile. "Told you. I had to keep you safe." The paramedics rushed in, cutting through the chaos. Amanda stepped back to give them room as they began treating his wound. Marcus crouched beside me. "He's telling the truth, Martin. If those men were Northridge operatives, this goes deeper than we thought." The storm outside began to fade, the thunder distant now. The flashing red lights reflected off the wet floor like faint pulses of life. They lifted Ethan onto the stretcher. He looked up at me, his eyes glassy but calm. "Don't let them twist it," he whispered. "Promise me you'll tell them the truth." I nodded, gripping his hand. "I promise." As they carried him out, I realized the line between guilt and innocence had blurred beyond recognition. But as Marcus turned to leave, his radio crackled, and a voice came through saying, "The suspect in custody isn't from Northridge. He's one of ours." Marcus froze when the message came through his radio. "Say that again," he said into the receiver. Voice sharp, the dispatcher repeated, "The suspect we caught, he's not with Northridge Labs. He's one of ours. Detective Henry Cole, missing from Internal Affairs since last month." The room fell silent. Rain dripped from Marcus's coat onto the floor as the words sank in. Amanda frowned. "Internal Affairs? What the hell would one of your detectives be doing here, breaking into Martin's house?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He ran a hand through his wet hair, his jaw tightening. Cole was working undercover, investigating corruption linked to Northridge. Then why break into my home? I asked, bewildered. Why point a gun at my son? Marcus looked at me gravely. Because someone inside the department wanted the evidence Ethan stole, and they didn't care how they got it. Amanda's expression darkened. You mean this goes through the police? He nodded slowly. If Cole was still working under orders, it means someone high up was helping Northridge cover their tracks. They probably told him Ethan was a threat, a thief trying to sell stolen research. He wouldn't have questioned it. I stared out at the flashing lights outside, the paramedics loading Ethan into the ambulance. The image felt unreal, like a nightmare that refused to end. So he wasn't delusional, I said quietly. Oh, there really were people following him. Amanda placed a hand on my shoulder. His fear wasn't all in his head. He was just drowning in it, trying to protect you and himself, Marcus exhaled. I'll dig into this, but until we know who authorized that break-in, you two are under protective watch. Whoever's behind this doesn't want that formula or those files to resurface. Amanda gave a short nod. We'll cooperate, but we'll also make sure Ethan's name isn't dragged through the mud. He deserves the truth to be told, Marcus looked at me. Do you know where the files are, Martin? I hesitated. Ethan's words echoed in my mind. Promise me you'll tell them the truth. But what was the truth anymore? The stolen data? The lies that protected me? Or the fear that had driven my son to the edge of madness? I finally said, no, he never told me where he hid them. Marcus studied my face, then gave a curt nod. If he contacts you again, call me first. Don't trust anyone else. Outside, the rain began to fade, replaced by the faint hum of ambulance sirens in the distance. Amanda looked at me. You believe he's going to survive, right? I wanted to answer. I wanted to believe it myself, but my voice refused to come out. As we turned to leave, Amanda froze. A small light blinked on my kitchen counter. A phone. Ethan's phone. And on its screen, one new message. If you're reading this, they found me again. Amanda and I froze. The glow from Ethan's phone pulsed softly in the dim kitchen light. A single unread message. My hands shook as I reached for it. The message preview read, From Unknown. If you're reading this, they found me again. The files are safe. Don't trust Marcus. The words hit me like a punch. I looked up at Amanda, whose face had gone pale. Don't trust Marcus, she whispered. We both turned toward the doorway, empty now, except for muddy footprints leading out to the porch. I scrolled down to read the rest of the message. Dad, if this ever reaches you, I want you to know I never meant to scare you. Everything I did was to protect you. The people at Northridge weren't just making a drug, they were making control. A formula to keep patients sedated permanently. They called it Project Hollow. I stole the data to stop them. But they've already buried the evidence inside the department. If Marcus is reading this, then I failed. My throat tightened. The words blurred through the tears I didn't even realize were falling. Amanda placed a trembling hand over mine. Martin? He wasn't paranoid. He was right. I scrolled further. The files are hidden in the old workshop behind the lake house. You'll find a flash drive taped under the second drawer. Give it to Amanda. She's the only one I trust. The message ended with one final line. Short, haunting. Don't let them say I was crazy. Amanda exhaled shakily. We need to get that drive before anyone else does. But before I could respond, the floor creaked behind us. Marcus stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Rain dripped from his coat onto the floor. Everything all right? He asked. I slipped the phone into my pocket, forcing my voice to stay calm. Yeah, just making sure we didn't miss anything. He nodded slowly, but his eyes lingered on me longer than necessary. Then he said, We'll stay on watch tonight. You two should get some rest. As he turned and walked out, Amanda whispered, He saw something. He knows. We waited until the last police car left before we moved. The storm had finally cleared, leaving the air heavy and still. We drove in silence to the lake house, headlights cutting through the fog. Inside the old workshop, the air smelled of oil and dust. I went to the second drawer, heart pounding, and reached underneath. My fingers brushed cold metal, a flash drive wrapped in electrical tape. Amanda's eyes widened. He wasn't lying. We stood there side by side, staring at the small object that had nearly cost both our lives. I looked out at the quiet lake, the reflection of the moon rippling across the water. Somewhere out there, my son was fighting demons, both real and imagined, but he'd done what he set out to do. He had saved me, I whispered, into the silence. I believe you, Ethan. But as Amanda connected the drive to her laptop, the screen flickered, and a folder appeared titled simply Hollow, Part 2. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind felt heavier than thunder ever could. Amanda and I sat in the dim light of the workshop, the laptop glowing softly between us. The cursor blinked beside a single folder name, Hollow, Part 2. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Amanda double-clicked. The screen filled with documents, dozens of them, lab reports, patient logs, invoices, internal memos. But one video file caught our attention. Test footage, 048 MP4. Amanda opened it. The image was grainy, time-stamped 6 months ago. Inside a sterile white room, a man in a lab coat stood beside a hospital bed. On it lay a restrained patient, motionless except for shallow breathing. A voice off-screen spoke. Subject 19, administering compound H47. Observe sedation duration. The doctor injected the substance. Within seconds, the patient's eyes fluttered, and then went still. The monitors flatlined. No one rushed to help. Instead, the doctor calmly wrote something on a clipboard. Amanda's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God!" The video continued. A second voice spoke, deeper, older. "Effective. Increased dosage for long-term control. Prepare for acquisition phase." The frame shifted, and for a fraction of a second, a reflection appeared in the glass. A familiar face. Marcus Reed. My blood ran cold. "That's—" Amanda's voice broke. "Marcus!" We sat in stunned silence as the recording ended. The man who had sworn to protect us was part of the experiment Ethan had been trying to expose. Amanda whispered, "He used his position to cover for North Ridge. That's why their files vanished from the police system." I looked down at the drive in my hand, the proof my son had risked everything to protect. "Ethan was right all along," I said quietly. "He wasn't paranoid. He saw the truth before anyone else." Amanda closed the laptop, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Then we finish what he started." I nodded. "We leak it. All of it." By dawn, we had copied the files to multiple encrypted drives and sent them to every major news outlet we could find. The system Ethan had tried to fight would finally see daylight. As the sun rose over the lake, the world felt different, quieter, but not peaceful. Some truths don't bring peace. They just strip away the lies. I stood by the water, the wind carrying the scent of wet pine and distant rain. Somewhere, my son was out there, maybe watching, maybe hiding, but finally free of the weight of being misunderstood. Amanda joined me, her voice soft. "You did right by him, Martin." I nodded slowly, eyes on the horizon. "No," I said. "He did right by all of us." For a long time, we stood there in silence. Then Amanda's phone buzzed, a new email alert. She glanced at the screen, her face draining of color. "It's from Ethan's account," she whispered. Subject: "You were never supposed to open Part 2.